The second game then between MarC and Tadao is going to be played on Tundra. That's here again a map that we have already seen today in the first map, so basically the same maps as in Chrono versus Kaimo, and the gods are not going to be changed. MarC is going to be sticking with Zeus and Tadao with Isis, and since this is also a high hunt map, quite similar to actually Watering Hole, especially with the kind of spawn that we have seen last time around, it's probably going to be conducive to same strategy, so let's see. Alright, so right now let's start, for example, with MarC, who is having a pretty nice hunting spot right next to the tower on the right side, and otherwise he's the gold, quite offensive position, but at the same time next to the tower, so it's not going to be all that problematic for him to defend, and it's pretty much it for interesting stuff around his base. Otherwise you don't see all that much, just Aurochs on the right with another gold and a TC. So that's a pretty good spot, and he's actually having all the TCs, or rather both of the TCs on the right side in a pretty decent position. This one is defensible altogether, the one on the left, whereas the one on the right is slightly more forward, but much more importantly, it's covering partly at least this gold, which means that if he can control this town center, he controls the one at the back and also a lot of gold and potentially some kind of trade route in here, even though he will want to establish to this TC from the left side much more, I would be guessing. What was the relic for? Oh, better infantry Zeus Titan, so that's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. A lot of hunt on the left just now being discovered by MarC, so he knows where to go once he runs out of the hunt on the left. But I fully expect that he will advance to the right, and this will basically put him right next to the TC, and I think he's going to be capturing it. If last game is any idea how he will play, once he advances into the classic age, and it seems to be pretty much set up what he's going to do, even though second group of villages is probably going to be going to the left to diversify a bit, seeing how there's a lot of hunt and even some extra gold if he needs to. What is this relic in the middle? Better house and 1 or hit points. Well, kinda meh. Both of the relics on this map, not really anything he should be uncorking the champagne about. But let's switch into Tadao and what he's seen so far. So he sees his front TC, which is wide open in the middle. That's a lot of difference, obviously, from his opponent, and that's going to be one that is going to be hotly contested by both of these players, as it's almost closer even to the blue player. Almost. Could be considered, but it's literally the middle of the map, but otherwise he has discovered a lot of hunt in the middle. Yeah, some elks, caribous, even some aurochs, so that's a pretty nice spot for him to go if he wants to be aggressive overall, with the caribous or other elks on the right side as well. Now, a bit of wolfies with gold. That's one he will be very happy about as a Negi, and the back TC of course, but otherwise he's probably just going to be hoping to go for the gold on the left and for the hunt as well. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty good spot with the aurochs on here. On top of that, that's a very nice one. Will be a place where to go, because the hunt, or rather the gold on the right, is basically as unsafe as it can be. And even though he might want to establish trade from next to the gold, not really behind, as it would be just a cluttering next to the trees and the stones, it wouldn't be really safe and very hard to wall and whatnot, so it's not really going to be worth it. I think he's probably going to be hoping to finish the game before shenanigans happen.
You need to.
Exactly going to the left as he predicted, not really going to the forefront, so yeah, wants to be at least marginally safe, but it's not going to be all that easy, or rather all that readily safe for him. As you can see that the closest tower is behind the tree line. So if he wants to retreat from here, it's going to be a long way around. Not ideal at all. And MarC could definitely make some kind of use of this. Let's finish with the Templar, so he will be advancing right about now to Hermes after his next villager is finished. So that's what kind of build is he making? He's having 5 in here, 4 in here, so it's just 9. You are having 10 at least. Having 6 on wood, 5 on gold. Another 6 on gold. It's going to be probably just for towers, or rather for walls and houses. That's an interesting build. Just hoping, that's definitely aiming for a second TC once he advances. But is he at least upgrading something? No, he isn't. Which he definitely could afford. You can see the resources in here. When I go for second town center with such advanced time as his, I can afford to actually upgrade all the upgrades, and Dax pickaxe, and even husbandry, and have exactly on town center when I advance. So that's slightly suboptimal from him, the build in here. But let's see if it's going to be enough for getting rid of this hand, because obviously Tadao is going to be stuck in this position for quite some time longer, and I will be fully expecting that he's going to be continuing with the attempts in the heroic age, in the faster heroic from the ISIS yet again. So Hermes now. Nicely finished wall in.
Πρόσεχε. Έτοιμη.
Πρόσταγμα.
Going for a front DC in the middle. Okay, so he's even not going for the right, for the one on the right. He is thinking that he can actually keep the one in the middle, and I'm thinking that he is not entirely wrong, considering that he's against an ISIS, which can, or rather is expected to go faster heroic. It's not like they really play all that much else. That's basically a safe bet for him. He is going to lose the centaur though here. He's not careful, which it seems that he is. But with capturing the town center, this is a pretty strong position for him. It's partly covering the TC, or rather the gold on the left. Much more importantly though, it is controlling the map in the middle. And it's quite close to his opponent's base, and potentially could be allowing him to control what his opponent is doing quite nicely. Fortunately, he doesn't have a line of sight on the hunt. So that's a bit of a problem. And he's also discovered in here, and is forcing a bolt. So that's a small victory for Tadao. Small victory for Tadao, but not really all that much of it, because obviously the town center is going to be finished, as he is arriving just a bit too late. And with both of these heroes, Odysseus and Jason, and Centaur still alive, he is going to be quite nicely booming from the two TCs, and should be in a pretty good spot, especially with a huge amount of hand right on his doorstep. Let's have a look at some upgrades. Oh, still nothing. That's weird. He is having a lot of resources, so he's probably just hoping for another faster heroic. Basically the same build as last time around, but is he going to actually disable the auto queue this time around? Where is the armory? So far I don't see it. With prosperity being cast by his opponent, undisrupted of course, all 16 villagers having fun, gathering at a high rate. And of course clicking with Neftis and trying to protect this crucial tower as much as he can, because it's going to be protecting the wood line on the right, and of course for a moment gold on the left as well. He is right now though developing on the left quite a lot, so he's just right now waiting for last Caribou, and after that I'm fully expecting to go Migdol right about here. This is just as good spot as any. It's more closer to the middle of the map, and of course, just now killing the Centaur is next to the gold, so it's going to be a pretty good spot for him. Whereas somewhere else, here it could be a pretty good spot as well, but it's very close to the town center, right next to the military buildings, which he can expect, of course, right about now. So yep, I'm betting on the left side, especially since he's sticking there with all the priests and the Sphinx, and going with all the gold miners in there as well. So we are just waiting for the upgrade into Neftis, and Migdol is going to be dropped just about now. He is though under pressure. MarC is attempting to put a bit of pressure on him with a bit of raiding. Unfortunately for him, through the right side, he is not going to find anything worthwhile. This is going to be under protection of the tower, as I was saying a bit earlier. Whereas on the left, the Migdol is going to be finished. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And with that will be coming siege works, and this gold mine is going to be very, very safe indeed. And he still has one to rely on at the back, even though guarded by all the wolves in here. It's still not going to be enough, and this is not good enough. This is not good enough. I'm going to cost you quite a lot of units, unfortunately, especially with right now camels coming in. That's an interesting switch. I don't think we have seen them in the last game on the Watering Hall, as Tadao is just now going for both of them. Okay, so that's going to be a mix of cavalry, together with chariot archers, which is going to be a pretty problematic army for MarC to deal with. Let's have a look at the MarC.
Έτοιμοι.
Finally having hand-axe and pickaxe, but he should be really thinking about moving somewhere else for the gold. Probably going to be moving to the left.
Έτοιμος.
Fortunately, a bit of
Πρόσταγμα.
idles. But he can also go to the right. He literally can choose. He's not going to be disrupted right now if he plays this correctly. If he lets his opponent trade a bit with chariot archers, he might be in a bit of a trouble with the villagers. But he is having a huge amount of hippicons right about now that he should be the one applying the pressure and trying to disrupt something like this exactly. The second DC from Tadao, which is a different build order than the last map around. He started with the DC, continued with the Migdol. Right now, it's exactly the other way around, and he is going to be raiding. He is going to be raiding, and MarC doesn't have the towers yet, as he was having last game. So is he maybe going to go for them right now? Not sure. But what is sure? Oh yeah, he is. Going for watchtowers. He is way too late protecting the tower on the right side, and yep. This is exactly what actually MarC should be doing. As a Negi, or rather as a Greek against a Negi, he should be the one aggressive for a raiding, but unfortunately he is letting Tadao take the initiative and basically force what's going to happen in here. But this is what I like. Medium hippicons, this is exactly what is super needed, as this makes classical H unit hippicons quite on par with the heroic H unit of Tadao. So yeah, this is very crucial, but he needs to be careful so that he protects all the villages that he can. As of course, Tadao is going to be applying a lot of pressure on multiple spots on the left, and he's also looking for villas on the right as well. So he's probably not going to allow MarC to capture either this DC or this one, as he seems like quite content keeping those villages in check. Having a bit of a fun in here. There he is, returning back to the left. But he really needs to be careful, Tadao, at the same time, so that he doesn't overdevelop. As the army of hippicons is getting stronger, and they can take down Migdol stronghold, of course, if they are in enough numbers and are able to deal with the army as well. So let's see. So far he's having pretty decent economy. So we can either afford more units, more military buildings, or just wants to advance into the next stage. Not sure, but he's still having auto queue yet again on the town center, and I'm slightly thinking that he is falling for the same trap as last game and is delaying his heroic age kind of unwittingly, without realizing that he could actually be advancing a lot faster if he just stopped the auto queue on the villas in here. And he needs to diversify, which he notices, and going for a 30C. That's interesting, but here we see with the push yet again, ancestors are coming in for the fun, and together with the army, that's a pretty strong one actually, and with extra help from the Sphinx and from the Scorpion Man, which are pretty strong mythical units, it's going to be quite tough for MarC to defend, especially. I was just going to say about micro, but Tadao needs to be careful about it himself. 2000 scored exactly like about now, so that he doesn't fight against Odysseus. And yeah, yet again, Ancestors was the exactly strong push that is going to push the game over the precipice for MarC and force him to resign, as the game is going to be lost quite soon. So yet again, pretty much the same as last game. Tadao very nicely and tightly controlled the game. And unfortunately MarC, even though he did have the chance, slightly more passive play than is actually needed against an ISIS. He seemed to be quite ready for it, but he was just waiting for inevitable attack by Tadao, and then it's really hard to deal with the Ancestors. It's really hard. So congrats Tadao on advancing into the next round of the no patch tournament against MarC 2-0. Tadao right now winning all of it, just not economy. Yet again, you don't expect that since he is faster heroic king. Military count units killed in the passive in here, but that's because there weren't really any fights. It was just the last one, and that was it. Then, rather besides that, just a few raiding cavalry, or rather raidings with the guys on horses. Nice boom by MarC, but unfortunately that's not everything. So, GG.